At my father's birthday lunch, my sister looked at my son and said, "He doesn't need a slice." I left, and what followed destroyed their perfect little world. Hey Reddit, my sister told my 6-year-old he couldn't have birthday cake at my dad's party because he doesn't need it. That was the moment I realized I was done being the family's doormat. What happened next? Let me tell you about the most satisfying year of my life. I'm Jake, 34 male, married to Sophie, 32 female, and we have one kid. My son Liam, 6 male. My sister Victoria, 29 female, is the golden child who's never been told no in her entire life, never had to work for anything, never faced consequences, never learned that actions have results. Before I get to the birthday disaster, you need to understand the dynamic I grew up with. This wasn't just typical sibling rivalry or parents playing favorites occasionally. This was systematic, calculated favoritism that shaped every aspect of our childhood and continued well into adulthood. Growing up, the pattern was crystal clear. Victoria got everything. I got expectations. When she was 7 and decided she wanted to be a ballerina, my parents enrolled her in the most expensive dance academy in the state. Private lessons twice a week, custom costumes, competitions in other cities. They'd drive 3 hours each way so she could perform in regional showcases. When I was 9 and wanted to join Little League, my dad handed me a 20 and told me to sign myself up. Said it would teach me independence. I rode my bike to the community center, filled out the forms myself, and showed up to practice in a uniform that was 2 sizes too big, because that's all they had in the donation bin. Victoria got piano lessons from a concert pianist who charged $150 an hour. I taught myself guitar from YouTube videos on a beat-up acoustic I bought at a yard sale with money from my paper route. She went to art camp every summer, the fancy kind where they stay in cabins and have professional artists teach classes. Cost about $3,000 per session. I spent my summers mowing lawns in the neighborhood, saving up for things like school supplies and clothes that fit. The justification was always the same. Girls need more support, or Victoria's more sensitive, or my personal favorite, boys need to learn responsibility early. What they really meant was Victoria mattered more, and I needed to figure things out on my own. High school was worse. Victoria got a brand new car for her 16th birthday. Not something practical. A white convertible Volkswagen Beetle with a custom interior. My parents threw her a party, invited all her friends, made a huge production of surprising her with it. I turned 16 3 months later, got a card with $50 in it and permission to borrow the family minivan if I paid for my own gas. Started working at the hardware store after school to afford driving at all. When Victoria wanted to go to prom, my parents paid for everything. Dress from a boutique, professional hair and makeup, limo rental, after-party hotel room. The works. My mom took the day off work to help her get ready. Took about 300 photos. My prom? I saved up for a rental tux, borrowed a friend's car, and my dad told me to have a good time without looking up from the TV. No photos, no fuss, no acknowledgement that it was supposed to be a milestone. College was where the financial disparity became impossible to ignore. Victoria decided she wanted to attend Westmont College, a private liberal arts school with tuition running about $45,000 per year. She'd picked it based entirely on campus aesthetics and the fact that her friend was going there. Didn't even know what she wanted to major in. My parents didn't hesitate, emptied their savings, took out Parent Plus loans, even borrowed against the house. Victoria got the full college experience. Dorm room, meal plan, sorority dues, spring break trips, everything. 2 years later, I got accepted to state school for mechanical engineering. My parents' contribution? We're still recovering from Victoria's expenses. You understand, right? Student loans build character anyway. I worked full-time at a manufacturing plant on the night shift, took classes during the day, slept in my car between shifts sometimes because going home would waste gas money and time. Graduated in 5 years instead of 4 because I could only afford part-time enrollment some semesters. Victoria changed her major 3 times. Communications, then psychology, then finally settled on something called digital media arts, which as far as I could tell meant learning to use Instagram filters and call it art. Took her 6 years to graduate with a degree that translated directly to unemployment. I graduated with a 3.6 GPA in mechanical engineering, passed my FE exam on the first try, and had 2 job offers before graduation. My parents sent me a congratulations text and a $25 gift card to Target. Victoria's graduation got a party with catered food, a photographer, and about 50 guests. My mom cried giving a speech about how proud she was of her daughter's creativity and perseverance. My dad gave a toast about how special Victoria was and how the world needed people like her. I ate grocery store sheet cake alone in my apartment after my graduation ceremony because my parents couldn't make it. They were helping Victoria move her stuff back home. The pattern continued into adulthood and actually got worse. Victoria moved back home after college, rent-free, for just a few months, until she figured things out. Those few months turned into 3 years. During that time, she worked part-time at a boutique, maybe 20 hours a week, making minimum wage. Spent her entire paycheck on clothes, brunch with friends, concert tickets, weekend trips. She contributed nothing to household expenses. Didn't pay rent, didn't buy groceries, didn't help with utilities. Treated my parents' house like a hotel with free room service. Meanwhile, I'd landed my first engineering job making $52,000 a year. Sounded like good money until you factored in student loan payments, rent on a studio apartment, car payment, insurance, and trying to build some kind of savings. I was living on ramen and clearance groceries, but I was independent. Then the emergencies started. First call came on a Wednesday night. My mom, voice tight with stress. "Honey, I hate to ask, but we're in a bit of a bind. Could you possibly loan us a few thousand, just until next month?" The story was vague. Unexpected expenses, timing issues with dad's commission checks. Nothing specific. I sent $3,000. Figured parents help kids, sometimes kids help parents. That's how family works. Found out 6 months later from my aunt that the emergency was Victoria maxing out 5 different credit cards on a shopping spree in Vegas with her friends. My parents had paid off the cards to protect her credit score. My money funded her irresponsibility. Second call came during my lunch break at work. Dad this time. "Son, I need a favor. Victoria's car got repossessed. You know how she struggles with money management. Could you help us get it back?" Victoria had missed 6 payments on her car loan because she kept forgetting to pay, even though she lived rent-free and had minimal expenses. The repossession fees and back payments totaled $4,000. I paid it. Because what was I supposed to do? Let my sister lose her transportation? My parents framed it like I'd be a bad brother if I didn't help. Third call. Victoria needed first and last month's rent on an apartment because she was finally moving out. My parents couldn't help because they'd just had unexpected dental work. Sent her $2,400. She moved back home 4 months later because the apartment didn't work out. Translation, she didn't want to pay rent when living with mom and dad was free. Fourth call, my mom needed help with property tax. How much? $5,000. When? By Friday or they'd face penalties. Sent it. Discovered later they'd actually been carrying a credit card balance from funding Victoria's elaborate engagement party, the one where she'd rented out a trendy restaurant, hired a photographer, and invited 80 people to celebrate her getting engaged. The pattern was always the same. Urgent call, vague emergency, specific dollar amount, promise to pay me back soon. I'd send the money because they were family, and you help family. They'd never pay me back because something else always came up. And somehow, many of these emergencies traced back to Victoria's spending or poor decisions. I kept track of every dollar. Not because I was planning to demand repayment, but because I'm an engineer and I track data. It's what I do. By the time Liam was born, I'd sent them $52,400 over 7 years. That's a down payment on a house. That's a college fund. That's early retirement savings. Instead, it went to maintaining my sister's lifestyle and enabling my parents to keep playing favorites without facing financial consequences. When I got engaged to Sophie, my parents' reaction was lukewarm at best. Sophie came from a working-class background. Her dad drove trucks for a logistics company. Her mom managed a retail store. They were good, honest people who'd worked hard their whole lives and raised Sophie to value education and independence. My parents treated her like she was beneath us. My mom would make little comments about Sophie's clothes not being quite right for family dinners. My dad would ask pointed questions about her career plans, implying a nursing degree wasn't as impressive as whatever he'd imagined I'd end up with. When we announced our engagement, my mom's response was, "Well, that's nice. Are you sure you want to rush into this?" We'd been dating for 4 years. Victoria knew Brandon for 8 months before getting engaged, and my parents threw her an engagement party that cost more than my car. For our wedding, my parents contributed exactly $0. "We're still recovering financially from Victoria's college expenses," my mom explained over brunch. "You understand, right? Maybe you could do something small and save the big celebration for later." Victoria's college expenses had been 7 years earlier at that point. They'd had plenty of time to recover, but apparently spending money on my wedding wasn't a priority. Sophie's parents stepped up. Her dad picked up extra routes to help with costs. Her mom organized a fundraiser among her church group. They gave us everything they could spare, and then some. Meanwhile, my parents showed up to the wedding, stayed for the ceremony and dinner, then left early because they were tired. We had a nice small ceremony at a state park pavilion. About 60 guests, mostly Sophie's family and our college friends. The decorations were DIY. The catering was from a local barbecue place, and Sophie's aunt made our wedding cake. It was perfect for us. But my parents' absence of support stung deeper than I wanted to admit. 2 years later, Victoria got engaged to Brandon. Brandon's family owned a regional restaurant chain. Nothing massive, but successful enough that they had money. Not just comfortable money, real money. The kind that comes with vacation homes and country club memberships. Suddenly, my parents found $30,000 for Victoria's wedding. It's different this time, my dad explained when I asked about the disparity. Brandon's family has certain expectations. We can't embarrass Victoria in front of them. So embarrassing Victoria mattered. Embarrassing Sophie's family by showing up empty-handed to my wedding? That was fine. The wedding was everything Victoria had ever dreamed of. Massive venue at some historic estate. Designer dress that cost more than my first car. Destination bachelor and bachelorette parties in Miami and Cancun. Open bar. Live band. 5-tier cake. Professional photographer and videographer. The works. My parents went into debt for it. Took out a personal loan to cover their contribution. But Victoria got her princess moment. And that's what mattered. Sophie and I attended, smiled for photos, and left after dinner because we had a 6-month-old at home and couldn't afford an overnight sitter. Victoria made a comment later about how we couldn't even stay for the whole reception and how it really hurt her feelings. My parents agreed I should have made more effort for my sister's special day. My sister's special day had cost more than my entire wedding, and I was supposed to feel bad about leaving early to take care of my infant son. Fast forward 4 years. Victoria and Brandon bought a house. Correction, Brandon's family bought them a house as a wedding gift. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, in a neighborhood where the average home goes for $800,000. My parents were over there constantly, helping decorate, hosting family dinners in Victoria's massive kitchen, bragging to everyone about her success. Sophie and I had scraped together enough for a down payment on a modest 3-bedroom in a decent school district. We were proud of it. My parents came over once for a brief tour, spent the whole time pointing out things we should fix or upgrade, then left after 20 minutes because Victoria needed help assembling furniture. The favoritism was so blatant it became background noise. I'd learned to tune it out, keep my head down, focus on my own family. Sophie wasn't as willing to ignore it, but she put up with it for my sake. Then came the birthday lunch that changed everything. My dad turned 65 last month. Victoria insisted on throwing him a big party at her house. She had the space, after all, and she wanted to do something special for him. She'd handle everything: food, decorations, cake, the works. Just show up and celebrate Dad. Sophie and I arrived with Liam, who'd been excited all morning about Grandpa's birthday party. He'd made a card at school, carefully drawn a picture of him and Grandpa fishing, and picked out a gift with his own allowance money. A coffee mug that said, "World's Best Grandpa." The house was full of people when we got there. Extended family, Dad's golf buddies, some of Victoria and Brandon's friends. The spread was impressive. Catered food, expensive decorations, a professionally made cake from some fancy bakery. Victoria greeted us at the door with the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Oh, good, you made it. Food's in the dining room, drinks in the kitchen. Try not to let him eat too much junk," she said, nodding at Liam. First red flag I should have paid attention to. The house was full of people when we got there. Extended family I hadn't seen in years, Dad's golf buddies who I'd met maybe twice, some of Victoria and Brandon's friends who I didn't know at all. The spread was impressive. Catered food laid out on the dining room table, expensive decorations everywhere, and a professionally made 3-tier cake from some fancy bakery that probably charged by the gram. Victoria greeted us at the door, wearing an outfit that cost more than our monthly grocery budget. Her smile was the kind that doesn't reach the eyes, the practiced social smile she'd perfected for Instagram photos. "Oh, good, you made it," she said, her tone suggesting she'd half hoped we wouldn't. "Food's in the dining room, drinks in the kitchen. Try not to let him eat too much junk." She nodded toward Liam with a look that made my stomach tighten. First red flag I should have paid attention to. Liam didn't notice. He was too excited, clutching his handmade card and the gift he'd picked out with his allowance. We'd spent an hour at the store while he carefully considered options, finally settling on a coffee mug that said, "World's Best Grandpa," because he'd seen my dad drink coffee every morning. The party was fine at first. Dad seemed happy enough, working his way through the crowd with his usual charm, opening gifts with appropriate enthusiasm. Liam played with some of the other kids in the backyard, showing anyone who'd listen his drawing for Grandpa, a crayon masterpiece depicting the two of them fishing together. My mom cooed over it briefly. "Oh, that's very nice, sweetie," she said, patting his head before getting distracted by something Victoria needed help with in the kitchen. Dad barely glanced at it before someone called him over for a photo. Sophie and I made small talk with relatives who asked perfunctory questions about work and Liam's school, then found reasons to drift away when we didn't have exciting updates about career changes or exotic vacations. We existed at these family functions, but didn't quite belong. Around 2:30, Victoria called everyone to gather for cake. The thing was massive, 3 tiers covered in elaborate fondant decorations, probably custom designed to match the party's color scheme. It looked more like a wedding cake than a birthday cake, but that was Victoria's style. Everything had to be Instagram perfect. Everyone crowded around while Victoria made a big show of lighting the candles. We sang Happy Birthday while Dad wore his obligatory embarrassed smile. He blew out the candles, everyone applauded, and Victoria picked up the knife with the kind of ceremonial importance usually reserved for cutting the ribbon at a grand opening. She served Dad first, of course. Then my mom. Then Brandon's parents, who'd shown up late but apparently outranked everyone else. Then Dad's golf buddies. Then extended family members in what seemed to be order of importance in Victoria's mental hierarchy. Liam stood next to me, watching this whole process with the patient intensity only a 6-year-old can muster when cake is involved. He'd been good all day, hadn't complained when we had to wait for Dad to finish talking before giving him the gift, hadn't thrown a fit when the other kids wanted to play a game he didn't like, hadn't asked for snacks, even though lunch had been 3 hours ago. Kid deserved some cake. Victoria made her way through the crowd, handing out slices with practiced efficiency. She got to us, me, Sophie, and Liam standing together, handed me a slice on a paper plate, the fork balanced on the edge. Then she completely skipped over Liam and moved to the next person. Not even a glance. Just walked right past him like he wasn't there. "Excuse me," I said, keeping my voice level. "Can he get a piece?" Victoria turned back, looking down at Liam like she'd just noticed him standing there. Her expression shifted. Not quite disgust, but something adjacent. Disapproval mixed with judgment. "Oh," she said, drawing the word out. "Actually, I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not?" I felt Sophie tense next to me. "Well," Victoria said, her voice carrying across the nearby conversations. "He's getting a bit chunky, don't you think? He doesn't really need the extra sugar. I'm just looking out for him." The room didn't go completely silent. Background noise continued from the other side, but that noticeable dip happened. Nearby conversations stopped. Heads turned. People tuned in to the drama. Liam looked up at me, confusion spreading across his face. He's 6 years old. Average height and weight for his age according to his pediatrician. Active kid who plays outside, rides his bike, swims at the community pool. There's nothing remotely chunky about him, but more importantly, he's 6. No kid should hear that kind of comment from an adult family member at a birthday party. Sophie's face went red, her hands clenched into fists. I could feel the anger radiating off her, but I put a hand on her arm. "Wait, let me handle this." "Give my son a piece of cake," I said, keeping my voice quiet but firm. "I really don't think that's appropriate," Victoria replied, clutching the cake server like it was a gavel, and she was a judge. "As his aunt, I think I have a right to be concerned about his health. You and Sophie might not notice these things because you see him every day. But trust me, I can see he's putting on weight. Kids these days have such a serious problem with obesity and diabetes, and it starts with parents who can't say no to them." My mom, who'd been watching this exchange from her spot next to Dad, decided to step in, not to defend her grandson, to back up Victoria. "Victoria's right, dear," she said, her voice carrying that tone of gentle correction she'd used my whole childhood. "Maybe it would be better if he doesn't have any. There's fruit in the kitchen if he needs something sweet. Fruit in the kitchen, at his grandfather's birthday party, while everyone else ate expensive bakery cake." That's when Sophie spoke up. "Are you kidding me right now? He's 6 years old at his grandfather's birthday party. He's getting a piece of cake." Victoria clutched the cake server like it was a weapon. "This is my house and I decide what gets served here. If you don't like it, you can leave." The room was fully silent now, everyone watching. Dad stood there with his hands in his pockets, saying nothing. My mom frowned but stayed quiet. Extended families suddenly found their phones fascinating. I looked at my dad. "You gonna say something here?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Well, maybe Victoria has a point. Kids do eat a lot of sugar these days." And there it was. My own father, on his birthday, at a party my sister threw to show off, taking her side and humiliating my 6-year-old son. I scooped Liam up and turned to Sophie. We're leaving. Good, Victoria said. Maybe next time you'll teach your son some self-control. I stopped at the door. Every eye in that room was on me. You know what, Victoria? You want to know why you can say whatever you want and get away with it? Because I've spent my entire life making excuses for you, letting things slide, pretending the favoritism doesn't exist. But I'm done. Oh, here we go, she said, rolling her eyes. The victim routine. When you graduated college, who do you think paid off your credit cards? Mom and Dad asked me for $15,000 to help you out because you'd maxed out 5 different cards on clothes and trips. I sent the money because family helps family, right? Her face went pale. When your car got repossessed because you missed 6 payments, who do you think got it back? I paid the $4,000 in back payments plus fees. Didn't expect a thank you, but I also didn't expect to be treated like garbage in front of my son. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, but her voice was shaky. Of course you don't, because Mom and Dad never told you where the money came from. They just fixed your problems and let you keep thinking the world revolves around you. I looked at my parents. I've given you over $50,000 in the last 10 years. Every time you called with an emergency, I helped. Every time Victoria screwed up, I bailed her out. And this is what I get? My son humiliated at a family party? My mother found her voice. Now that's not fair. We've always treated you both equally. Right. That's why you contributed $30,000 to her wedding and nothing to mine. That's why you bought her bedroom furniture, but told me to check yard sales. That's why every family dinner is at her house. Every holiday revolves around her schedule. Every conversation is about her life. The guests were shifting uncomfortably. Some were heading for the door. Good. Let them see the perfect family image crack. You're being dramatic, Victoria said, but tears were forming. The kind of tears she'd always used to manipulate situations back in her favor. No, I'm being done. Done with the favoritism, done with being the backup plan, done with watching you treat my family like we're second class. I carried Liam out to the car. Sophie followed with his drawing and the mug he'd bought, which my dad never even opened. We strapped him into his car seat, and he asked the question I'd been dreading. Daddy, am I chunky? No, buddy. You're perfect exactly how you are. Your aunt said something mean, and that's on her, not you. But why would she say that if it's not true? Sophie turned around from the passenger seat. Because sometimes grown-ups say things that are more about them than about you. You're healthy and strong and exactly right. We drove home in silence. After we got Liam settled with a movie and some actual cake we had in the freezer, Sophie looked at me. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, but something's got to change. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about every instance of favoritism, every time I'd swallowed my pride, every dollar I'd sent to fix problems that weren't mine. The birthday cake incident wasn't the issue. It was the final straw on a camel that had been carrying weight for 34 years. Around 2 a.m., I got up and started going through old bank statements, emails, text messages. Built a complete picture of every time I'd financially helped my parents or Victoria over the past decade. The number was staggering, $52,400. That was a down payment on a bigger house. That was Liam's college fund. That was early retirement savings. Instead, it had gone to prop up a family system that treated me like an ATM and my sister like a princess. By morning, I'd made my decision. I called my parents Monday afternoon. We need to talk about what happened at the party. I know you're upset, my mom started, but you really embarrassed Victoria in front of everyone. She's very hurt. I'm calling to let you know Sophie, Liam, and I won't be attending any more family functions. We're done. Silence. Then, you can't be serious. Completely serious. I'm tired of being treated like a second-class member of this family. Until things change significantly, we're out. You're overreacting to a comment about cake. No, I'm reacting to 34 years of being the backup son, the reliable one who doesn't need attention or praise or financial support, the one who's just supposed to show up, smile, and write checks when Victoria messes up. That's not fair. We love you both equally. Then why did you stand there and let her humiliate my son? Why did Dad take her side? Why have you spent the last decade funding her lifestyle while telling me to figure things out on my own? My dad got on the phone. Now you listen here. We raised you better than this. Family doesn't just walk away over hurt feelings. You're right, family doesn't. But you've made it clear where I rank in this family. I'm done pretending it doesn't matter. I hung up, blocked their numbers, blocked Victoria's number, blocked the extended family members who'd witnessed the party and said nothing. Sophie found me sitting at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. How'd it go? I cut them off. She sat down next to me. You sure? Yeah, I'm sure. Good. They don't deserve you. The first week was quiet. No calls, no texts, no drama. I figured they were waiting for me to cool off and come crawling back with apologies. That's how it had always worked before. Week 2, the emails started. My mom sent long messages about family bonds and forgiveness, conveniently forgetting to mention any actual apology for what Victoria said or how they'd handled it. Just expectations that I'd get over it and come back. I didn't respond. Week 3, Victoria sent a message through Sophie's Facebook. Tell Jake I'm sorry if he took my comment the wrong way, but he's really hurting mom and dad with this silent treatment. Sorry if he took it the wrong way. Not sorry for saying it. Sorry I got offended. Classic non-apology. Sophie blocked her too. Month 2, things got interesting. Apparently, Victoria and Brandon were having financial problems. Brandon's restaurant investment wasn't going as planned. Something about costs being higher than expected and revenue below projections. They'd been living above their means, and now the chickens were coming home to roost. Victoria called Sophie from a different number. I really need to talk to Jake. It's important. Sophie, bless her heart, said, he doesn't want to talk to you. If it's important, put it in writing. The email came the next day. Victoria needed money. Brandon's restaurant was failing. They were behind on the mortgage, and they needed $15,000 to catch up and have breathing room. She'd pay me back, of course, with interest. Just as soon as things turned around. I didn't respond. She sent another email, then another, getting progressively more desperate and less proud. The third one admitted she had no one else to ask. She'd already borrowed from her in-laws, maxed out their credit cards, and my parents didn't have anything to give. I sent one reply. You told my 6-year-old he doesn't need cake because he's chunky, at his grandfather's birthday party, in front of everyone. And when I called you out, Mom and Dad took your side. No. Her response was immediate. That's what this is about? I said I was sorry. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. Please, Jake, I'm drowning here. I'll do anything. Then you should have thought about that before humiliating my son. Month 3, their house went into pre-foreclosure. Victoria made a public Facebook post about how hard times can hit anyone and how grateful she was for her supportive family who were helping them through it. Comments poured in with sympathy and offers of prayers. Funny thing about that post, she'd conveniently left out the part where she'd asked me for money and I'd refused. Let everyone think the family was rallying around her, while quietly omitting that one family member had said no. My mom called from a new number, got through before I could block it. How can you do this to your sister? She needs help. Where was her help when Liam needed a piece of cake? That's not the same thing. You're right, it's not. But it showed me exactly where we stand. Victoria matters. My family doesn't. So Victoria can solve her own problems. You're being cruel. No, Mom. I'm being exactly as supportive as you and Dad were when Victoria called my son Chunky and you backed her up. I hung up and blocked the new number. Month 4, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Victoria and Brandon lost the house. They moved into an apartment, sold most of their furniture, and Victoria got a full-time job for the first time in her life. Her social media went quiet. No more posts about brunch spots or shopping trips or the blessed life. My parents started having to actually budget without my financial safety net. Turns out those emergencies I'd been funding were really just lifestyle expenses they couldn't afford. Without my contributions, they had to make real choices about spending. Dad had to give up his golf club membership. Mom cut back on her shopping. They downsized from their house to a condo. Real consequences for real actions. I felt nothing watching it happen. No guilt, no satisfaction, just numbness. These were the people who'd raised me to believe family meant something, then proved it only meant something when it was convenient for them. Month 5 brought an unexpected visitor. Victoria showed up at my workplace. Security called up asking if I wanted to meet with her. I almost said no, but curiosity won. She looked different. Tired. Like she'd aged 5 years and 6 months. None of the designer clothes or perfect makeup. Just a woman who'd finally run face first into reality. I need to talk to you, she said. I'm working. Please, 5 minutes. 5. I took her to a conference room. Closed the door. Waited. I'm sorry, she started. Really sorry. Not sorry you took it the wrong way. Sorry I said it. Sorry I've spent my entire life taking advantage of you. Sorry I never appreciated what you did for me. What brought this on? Losing everything. Having to actually work. Realizing that the world doesn't revolve around me and that actions have consequences. She wiped her eyes. Brandon left me. Said he didn't sign up for an actual working wife who comes home tired. Turns out he wanted the princess version, not the real person. That sucks. It does. But it's also fair. I was never real with him either. Just played a part funded by other people's money. She looked at me. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect money. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what I did. To you, to Liam, to Sophie, it was wrong. Okay. That's it? Okay? What do you want me to say, Victoria? That everything's forgiven and we can go back to normal? There is no normal to go back to. You spent 30 years as the golden child, and I spent 30 years as the backup. That's not something that gets fixed with one apology. I know. I just hoped. I don't know what I hoped. She left. I went back to work. Told Sophie about it that night. Think she meant it? Sophie asked. Probably. Losing everything has a way of clarifying priorities. You going to forgive her? Eventually, maybe. But not now. And definitely not going back to how things were. Month 6. My parents sent a letter. Actual handwritten letter, not an email or text. My mom's handwriting, my dad's signature. They were sorry. Really, truly sorry. They'd failed me as parents by playing favorites, by taking Victoria's side, by letting me carry burdens that weren't mine. They'd spent 6 months watching their daughter's life collapse and their son's life continue without them, and they finally understood what they'd lost. The letter included a check for $52,400, every dollar I'd sent them over the years. They'd sold some assets, emptied savings, scraped together the exact amount. We can't give you back the years, my mom wrote, but we can give you back this. No strings attached. You deserved better from us. I stared at that check for a long time. It represented a lot of things. Validation, acknowledgement, maybe even genuine remorse. But it couldn't erase the 34 years of living as the spare child. Sophie found me in the kitchen. What are you going to do? I don't know. You could cash it. Put it in Liam's college fund. I could. You could tear it up. Make a point. I could. Or you could sit on it for a while. Think about what you actually want. That's what I did. Put the check in a drawer and let it sit. Kept living my life, focusing on my family, building the future I wanted instead of the one they'd scripted for me. Liam asked about Grandma and Grandpa sometimes. I told him they were dealing with some grown-up stuff, but he'd see them when the time was right. He seemed okay with that answer. Month 8, my dad had a health scare. Heart palpitations. Ended up in the ER. Nothing serious, but serious enough to remind everyone that he was 65 and mortal. Victoria called Sophie. I know Jake doesn't want to talk to us, but Dad's in the hospital. He should know. Sophie told me. I sat with the information for an hour, then drove to the hospital. Not because I'd forgiven anything. Not because one health scare erased 30 years of favoritism, but because despite everything, he was still my dad. Found him in a hospital bed, my mom in the chair next to him. They looked old. Really old. Like the last 6 months had taken a decade off their lives. Hey, Dad. His eyes welled up. You came. Yeah, I came. My mom stood up, started to say something, stopped, just looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time in years. We sat in that hospital room for 2 hours. Didn't talk about the party, didn't talk about the money, just sat. Sometimes that's all you can do. Victoria showed up toward the end of visiting hours. Saw me, froze in the doorway. We looked at each other across the room. Two people who'd spent their whole lives in the same family, but lived completely different experiences. Hi, she said quietly. Hi. She sat down. We all sat there in this uncomfortable silence that felt more honest than 30 years of fake harmony. When visiting hours ended, I stood to leave. My dad grabbed my hand. Thank you for coming. You're welcome. I don't deserve it. Probably not. But I didn't come because you deserve it. I came because I'm not like you. I show up for family even when they don't show up for me. I left, drove home, told Sophie what happened. What now? She asked. Now? Nothing. They know where I stand. Ball's in their court. Month 10, Victoria started sending Liam birthday and holiday cards. Not elaborate ones, just simple cards with simple messages. Thinking of you. Hope you're doing well. Love, Aunt Victoria. I didn't stop her. Didn't encourage her either. Just let Liam decide if he wanted to respond. Sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't. My parents started respecting boundaries. No more surprise visits, no more pressure to attend family functions, no more expectations. Just occasional messages checking in, asking how we were, backing off when I said we were fine. It wasn't reconciliation. It was something else. Acknowledgement, maybe. Recognition that they'd broken something that couldn't be easily fixed. Month 12, we had Liam's 7th birthday party. Small thing at our house, his school friends and their parents, pizza and games. Sophie made a homemade cake. Nothing fancy, just a sheet cake with blue frosting and Star Wars decorations, because that's what Liam was into. Halfway through the party, the doorbell rang. My parents stood on the porch, holding a wrapped present. They looked uncertain, like they weren't sure if they should have come. We won't stay, my mom said quickly. We just wanted to drop this off. Let him know we remembered. Liam appeared behind me. Grandma? Grandpa? Their faces lit up. My dad's voice cracked. Hey, buddy. Happy birthday. Do you want some cake? Liam asked. Mom made it. It's really good. They looked at me. I looked at Sophie. She shrugged. Your call. Come on, I said. But Liam gets the biggest piece. Because it's his birthday, and he's perfect exactly how he is. My mom started crying. My dad put his arm around her. Liam grabbed their hands and pulled them inside, chattering about his party and his presents and his friends. Sophie leaned over and whispered, You sure about this? No, but I'm sure about him. He deserves grandparents who show up. Whether they deserve him is a different question. They stayed for an hour, sang happy birthday, watched Liam blow out candles, ate cake without commenting on anyone's weight or sugar intake. Then they left quietly, thanking us for letting them come. Victoria sent a text that night. Heard Mom and Dad got to see Liam. I'm glad. He deserves better than our mess. I didn't respond. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.